working for the kingdom. Really just a propaganda waiting to mislead them. Try to use the facts for your phony little fest, but the test gonna flop when the truth don't connect. Talking deconstruction, subtly abducting the future generation with your fake introduction. Use the altercation when the truth is in your function. Choose the affirmation when my God is in production. Go attack with living water pure from holy hands. Christ delivers water separated from the scams. When you find the treasure up in heaven here on earth, then the blind receive they sight like a baby from the birth. Trying to see the light when the Christ up in the work. Gotta keep it all up like it's Giannis on my shirt.
Man, hold up. Yo, welcome back, man. It's your boy Reckless Talk with the Reckless Talk Podcast, man. Episode 48. Man, kicking it with my boy Andrew Rodriguez.
Hey,
what's going down, man? Owner, CEO, CFO of Red Ink, man.
Yeah.
What's good, brother? How you been, man?
Man, I'm wonderful. Blessed. Good.
I'm good to hear that, man. Before we get started, man, it's 713 Day, man. You from the H. Tell everybody what 713 Day mean to you, man, to the city.
Shoot, so it came from, it's the 7th month and on the 13th day. So it's 713. And that was the first area code we had before, like the 281s and 832s and stuff like that. Yeah. So, that's the original. The 713 is the original. And it's funny that we're having the meeting today because, you can find me at Ready_713. So,
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, man. So tell everybody, man, how was it like growing up in Houston, man? Tell everybody about your city.
Well, shoot, growing up was cool, man. I had my mom and my pops. I was the last out of 9. Just growing up in a neighborhood where it was a lot of gangbanging at the time. But in my neighborhood, it was just a lot of drug dealing. You know what I'm saying? We really didn't gangbang and stuff like that. I mean, we went to the schoolhouse and we seen it all and heard it all. But really, in my neighborhood, man, it was a bunch of hustling going on in there. So, it's Manchester. So if you know where Manchester's at, it's like a little small neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Like, you'll miss it if you blink.
It's A-Leaf, huh?
No, Southeast.
Southeast, okay.
Yeah. So, that's what I grew up around.
Yeah. Let me give everybody a little insight, man. So I met Andrew at this Father's Day give back. Big shout out to Diamond Cuts, Hustle Town, Jessica Jeans. Who else promoted that, man? All the vendors that were there. Yams, DJ Yams, Infamous Tex. Big shout out to all them boys, man. All the vendors. Dude got a story to tell, man. He got a story to tell. It's amazing, man, how you can go from the streets, living that life, to this.
Right.
To this right here. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm hoping with this episode, we can just inspire somebody. Maybe there's a young cat going down the wrong road, and he sees this, and he was like, you know what? This ain't for me. This is possible.
This is for me. I got some ideas.
You know what I mean? So tell us, man. How did you transition from the streets to your own business? Tell us a little insight on your background.
Well, when I was a kid, I was like 8 years old, right? A homeboy of mine, he comes to me and he says, man, we're kids. So he goes, man, I know where to get some cookies and punch. And I said, man, what's up? Where we going? What we have to do, right? And then he's like, man, it's over here at the church. I'm like, oh, there ain't no cookies and punch. He's like, nah, we're going to go. I said, well, where's it at? I tell my mom to drop me off. You tell your mom to pick me up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's how we collect. And then he was like, nah, they're going to come pick us up. They'll come pick us up for church. It was on a Wednesday night. I said, all right, well, cool. So he made a little phone call, and, here comes a van, 7 o'clock. Here comes a van, and a man named Santos, he was driving the van, picked us up. We went to this little building, and sure enough, cookies and punch, all we wanted, right? So like, yeah, man, we dabbing each other. So, but then, man, Santos started talking, right? And he started, in my household, I knew my mom and pops loved me. I knew my brothers and sisters, they loved me and stuff like that, but we were never comfortable telling one another, man, I love you. You can do it. I'm proud of you. In our family, it was always stupid. What do you think you're doing? You know what I mean? Like always down talking kind of deal. But it was love was there. But he started telling me about this king that really loved me. And everything like that. But here comes the preteens and stuff like that. Money's low, pops is sick, you know what I'm saying? And my pops passed in 92. So I started hustling, I started doing my thing, dudes from the neighborhood, they knew my pops because he used to throw football with them and stuff like that because he had diabetes, he lost his sight. So he used to throw football with the neighborhood kids, which is my brothers and them older, friends and stuff. So they used to come to me and, they were in the street life now. They were like OGs kind of deal, right? Yeah. And they're like, look, man, your pops, I had mad respect for your pops and stuff like that. For that, you come to us for anything you want. Here's a little something for your pocket. You know what I mean? So they showed me how to game a hustle. So I started hustling and stuff like that. And I always admired them because, man, they were dressed fly. They had the Adidas on. They had, cross color on. They had the 8-ball jacket on.
Man,
yeah,
you know what I mean? 8-ball jacket.
Yeah. And I would always be like, man, them boys are fresh. Man, you see what was they got the new Jordans on? It was before the number 4s and the number 3s. Yeah. But that's what they were wearing. And the dookie ropes and the jewelry, you know what I'm saying? And they drove cars, you know what I'm saying? But I was more infatuated with what they were wearing. Yeah. So I'm like, man. So, I'm hustling, I'm selling dope, I'm buying, school clothes when you know how that goes. And I get heavy in the game. I ain't the man or nothing like that. I ain't the bird man or nothing, but I'm heavy in the street. Yeah. And then like my mom's like, I lost my pops. So like my mom started getting in where she fit in. And she was my co-defendant, if you want to call it like that, right? So she was bringing in people from Mexico and I was selling dope, you know what I mean? So she'd go by the weekend and I'll do this here. So I quit going to church a long time ago, but I still prayed. I still, read the Bible. Like I had the Bible next to my, on my dresser, next to my pistol and underneath bills. You know what I mean? So it was like, I always had God in me. I would always pray. I'm like, please not today, because I was in the street. So I was getting, heavy in the game to where my mom's even had to turn to God. Like she was never like a godly woman. But like when she seen how far I was going, she was like, man, enough's enough. So she went to the room and like I would come home like at 4 or 5 in the morning. And that's what time she was getting up. So I seen her one day coming home from, hustling or whatever. And then I'm looking in her room to see what she's doing, and I see her in the corner. And then I didn't want to make no noise or anything, so I said, I'll tell her what she's doing later on. Went to sleep. Later on that day, woke up. And I said, hey, Moms, man, what were you doing in the room? And she was like, I was praying. And I'm like, praying? What were you praying about? You know what I mean? She goes, I was praying for you. I'm like, oh, all right, you know what I'm saying? Well, keep it up, I guess, you know what I mean? And not that I was mad at God or nothing like that. It was just, hey, man, I'm in the street. This is what I'm doing. So I ended up going to boot camp. I ended up going to like, all these facilities and stuff like that in jail. But the last time I signed for 15 years and I did 8.5 flat on it. Yeah. And one time I seen my mom, she come to see me and stuff. Now, the first 5 years I was wilding out, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, I was playing the game inside. But one visit, they came and I was talking to my moms. And you get a few minutes after that, visit's over. You get a 2-hour visit, visit's over. So you get to hug and kiss them goodbye. And I said, hey, Mom, let me ask you something. I said, you still be praying? And she said, every day and every night. Yeah. And I said, all right, cool. I said, let me ask you something else. I said, you still pray for me? And she said, every day and every night. I said, keep it up, man. I think it's working. Because, man, I started really coming to myself. You know what I'm saying? I started really reading the Bible. I started really praying. Yeah. You know what I mean? I started really like, hey, man, I don't want to come back to this place. I'm in and out of jail. I wouldn't stay free more than 6 months. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And every time I went back, I knew it hurt my people even more. You know what I'm saying? So my prayer was this. I said, look, man, I'm up for parole. I missed the first one. They didn't give me the first one. I ain't mad. I said, but you know what? Don't let me out. I said, don't let me out. I'm afraid to make parole because I don't want to come back. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Any little thing.
Anything. So I said, look, man, don't let me go unless you think I'm ready. And I tell you what, I made that next parole. I said, not only did I make it, I made like an FI1, which means within that month. And it was kind of crazy for an aggravated case to get like an FI1. Yeah. But so I get out of jail and I said, man, what I'm gonna do? I started working, doing my thing and stuff like that, right? But back before I even got locked up, and I got mad stories about, you know, what was going on. I'm at the dope house one time, and I had a couple of cookies of rocks, right? And it's pumping, it's 3 a.m, right? And I told my homeboy, I didn't feel right. I had to leave. I said, look, man, give me this much and you can make that. And they're like, where you going? Man, it's like pumping out here. Like, you can move all that tonight. You know what I'm saying? I said, man, you know what? I'm done after this. I said, just here you go. Just give me this tomorrow. So it's 3 a.m, and I'm walking down the street underneath the street light, right? And I yell at the top of my lungs. I yell, Jesus, if you're real, show me. The dogs are barking, lights are always yelling because I'm already loud by nature. Yeah. So if I yell, you're gonna hear me, right? So I see a friend of mine that I used to know from back in the day. And I said, man, what's up, man? What you doing out here 3 a.m? He was like, man, we're moving. I said, moving? He goes, yeah, Santos, remember from church? They used to pick you up. And I said, oh, shoot, man, I just, you know what I'm saying, called on God. So anyway, the Bible says if you call on him, he will answer. You know what I'm saying? So he answered me that night. And after that, spooky stuff started happening to me. I say spooky, it ain't, scary or nothing like that, but it was like real intense. Yeah. Like a friend of mine one time, like we were smoking, me and him, we blazing, and he's kind of like a goofball smoker. Like he'll start, hey man, what if Ant-Man and Superman fight? What do you think? Yeah. I'm like, golly, man, why you going? I just want to chill, you know what I'm saying? I want to get there. So he's like real goofy, kind of bouncing everywhere, and he's smoking, right? We blazing, he gets thick, and then he switches, right? I'm like, he's like this, then he switches, and he looks at me. He goes, he's waiting on me. Then he goes back, and he goes back to being goofy again. And I said, whoa, what just happened, right? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, what do you mean? I said, what'd you just say? He goes, I didn't say nothing. I mean, we're about to buy. Like, I know you said something. What'd you say? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Stuff like that started happening. And then, and I'm going to tell you this other story because it has to pertain to the brand. So I'm at the mall. I was going to a barbecue. I'm at the mall. So I'm getting an outfit, whatever, for the mall. For the barbecue later on that day. So I'm looking around and I'm looking through the Ralph Lauren or whatever. And then I hear a song we used to sing when I was a kid, like this little light of mine. Some woman was singing it. And it was a woman and a dude, it was a couple, and they were passing behind me. And I'm looking through the thing and something tells me, look. And I'm like, nah, I'm not looking. And so they say, look. And I'm like, I'm not looking. I'm here. I'm going to buy an outfit. I'm going to go to this barbecue. I'm going to holler at some girl. You know what I mean? So I'm like, man, I'm not looking. Then I had to look. And when I turned around and looked, it was the back of the shirt. It was a big hand, right? With the nails sticking out. And it said, choose today who you will serve. Yeah. And I said, man, I knew I shouldn't have looked, right? Because stuff like that started happening more and more and more. So I went to the couple. I said, look, man, y'all got something to tell me. What y'all got to tell me? And then, she was kind of like, what do you mean? Man, y'all here to tell me something. What is it? And she, signs, right? She goes, he's waiting for you. And I said, that's it? And she's like, I guess. I said, I bet. It was so used to this kind of, you know what I'm saying, these messages that God was sending me, that I was like, man, whatever. All right, get it over with. All right, it's freaky, whatever. Get it over with and I'm gone, right?
Now it got your attention. You're paying attention.
Yeah.
So let's pause on that real quick. So you mentioned that you couldn't stay out for 6 months. What made you, the last time you was out there, what made you say, you know what, this is it?
It was 5 years in, I was in my cell, and I remember my mom's telling me at a visit too, she goes, hey, do you like it in here? I said, come on, man, you know I don't like it in this place. She goes, man, nah, you like it? It's cool? They feed you good? I said, nah. I didn't know what she was getting at, right? She was like, they clothe you? You like not paying bills? Like, do you like it in here? I said, ma, I don't like it in here. What are you doing? She goes, why do you keep leaving me? And I hurt. And I said, God dang. So, I started growing up. And then a couple of older cats in there, one especially, he showed me how to play chess. And we fight. One time I fought for the TV, whatever. Get the remote, we start banging each other up, whatever. And then I go to the back because he's bleeding, we bleeding. We kind of messing with our wounds. and then he's playing chess, and I remember sitting down, and he don't even look at me. He goes, Drew, how you feel? And I said, what do you mean old school? He's like, how do you feel? And he's just standing playing chess. And then I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he's like, you won that fight? And I said, yeah, I won. You know, he's like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I won. He goes, yeah. He goes, what you fight for? I said, for the TV, because he didn't want to watch the show. I wanted to watch the show. He goes, then why are you over here with me? And he stayed playing chess. I said, and I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, you fought for the TV. Why aren't you over there watching it? Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, he goes, and I didn't know what to say. And after that, like, he would be like, Drew, come over here, man, sit by me. And then I would just sit by him and I'd listen to him. And then he would play chess. And then he goes, you know how to play? I'm like, nah. He goes, come on, I'm going to show you. So he started showing me how to play chess. And he goes, this is life. He says, man, every move you make has to be strategic. Mm-hmm. You know, I always had good men in my life to tell me, you know, who I was, but I just never believed it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that made me really like, you know what? He says, I got a life sentence. I'm never getting out. He goes, you getting out one day. He goes, what are you going to do when you get out? And then it just made me think, like, yo, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? Yeah. So after that, I started, man, forget that TV, man. Let me pick up the Bible. Let me read, man, forget that TV. Let me pick up a book. Like, forget that TV. Let me, you know, try to better myself. So I started taking little classes, cognitive classes, because, and I didn't know how to be an adult out here. You know what I'm saying? I got locked up as a kid, and I was always getting locked up. And I was tired of being a kid. I wanted to be a man now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I had to, like, really, and still, even when I got out, I had to learn a lot. But, you know, I knew that messages could be sent to people through clothes, just like that nail print. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to start a clothing brand. You put your art on clothes. So this is the thing. Like, I always liked art when I was a kid. I like theater arts, right? I like the movies. I watch movies and kind of critique on how they act. I always love paintings. I go on Thursdays. It's free, like here in Houston, the art museum. And I always liked the art. And I had an older brother that used to make shirts, but he used to paint on them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I was always looked up to that. Plus, I used to look up to people like Ralph Lauren because, like, you know, he's classic. Like Johnny Versace, you know what I'm saying? Because he just, you know, made people look good. And even FUBU, like, these are the people that I really looked up to because the message was there. And I thought, you know what? The best way to send a message and what I'm really into is clothes. You know what I'm saying? So if I can make a brand that'll speak to people without pressing people, you know, I think, man, we got something. Yeah, facts. And facts. You know what I mean? So the reason why I call it the Words in Red Incorporated was when I was locked up, what helped me and what soothed me was the Gospels, which is Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. And that's where they talk about the life of Jesus. Yeah. And when Jesus is talking, and when Jesus is talking in the Bible, it has red words in there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the red ink, the I-N-K, okay. You know what I'm saying, is where he's talking. Yeah. And that's what used to help me. And that would, you know, there was light at the end of the tunnel when I would read that, his life and stuff like that. So I wanted to be him. I got to have to learn who he was. Yeah. So I just kept reading that over and over and over and over. And if you read, like, man, he was an amazing man. Put the miracles and stuff to the side. Man, that man was so wise. And I was tired of being stupid. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to be wise, and he's the wisest person I ever heard. So, you know, I just over and over. So what else would I name the brand? The Words in Red. Now I put incorporated because somebody had I-N-K ink. So I just put incorporated so it can still be red ink. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, how would you say your background and your culture, how would you say that influenced your career?
Shoot, everything. I was like, man, probably 6 years old when, you know, I'm playing outside and we had like a little garage shed outside, right? And I go in there and I used to like snoop around through our old stuff and I seen a duffel bag full of tapes. So I'm like, man, what is this Sugar Hill Gang, right? And I said, man, all right, I'm gonna check this out, the Fab Five, right? So you know what I'm saying? So I go to hip hop, man. I'm like, oh, what is this? I'm a kid. I'm used to Michael Jackson because I love Michael Jackson. I'm used to Michael Jackson. I'm used to like, you know, what other Soul Train and stuff like that, right? But this right here was something different. Now I started trying to break dance. I started trying to do, you know what I'm saying? Hip hop. I loved hip hop, like loved it. And I just fell in love with, you know, the graffiti and the DJing. Like, how do they do that? You know what I'm saying? The music and just the MC and then like the breakdance and it's everything hip hop has, you know. So I just fell in love with it and I just kept on with it, which means later on I would see the you know, the dope boys and they would be dressing like the you know, hip hop. And I'm like, man, that's fresh. Man, I want some Carl Panay, right? I was like, man, I want some, you know what I mean? So I was always like thrown there to that end. And then my brother, like my older brother, he was making some bread and he used to dress fly, man. I'm like, man. And then Biggie came out.
Man, big shout out to Biggie, rest in peace.
Man, rest in peace to that man. I can't believe how young he was. I'm still quoting lyrics and saying, man, that dude's a monster. So when he brought Versace, he introduced everybody. Well, he introduced me to Versace, right? So, and I'll tell you a quick story. It's summertime, and you know it's hot summertime.
Man, shit.
All right. So you understand my pain when I tell you this. So at my mom's house, there's only like, you know, her room had air conditioning, the kitchen, and you know, other rooms had the window units.
Yeah.
We had central air. So I told him, I had a deal with my mom. I was like, look, man, I need an air conditioner in my room, man. I'm hot. You know what I mean? And then I said, look, if I buy one, you know, I'll help with the bill and stuff like that. She's like, all right, we'll go ahead. So I tell my sister, man, I got like $350. I know where they would go to service merchandise, and man, I'm gonna go give me an AC. So she's like, all right, cool. So I got the bread in my pocket, and I'm waiting on her to come by after work. And I'm outside. My homeboy comes by, and he's like slanging. You know, he's doing it. And he's like, man, what you finna do? I was like, man, I'm just waiting on my sister. What you doing? He's like, man, I'm going to the Galleria. You want to ride? I said, yeah. So, you know, my partner, I smoke for free and everything like that. My homeboy. So we go to the Galleria. We go to the Versace store. I'm like, yo, this is one Biggie got, right? These glasses. And I'm looking at them. I'm like, yo. And then he goes, put them on, man. And you know how your partner's going to wire you up. Yeah. So I put them on. Yeah. I put them on, and he goes, "Oh man, that's you, man." I'm like, "Where you think? Yeah, I'm looking in the mirror." And then she wants to make a sale, so she's like, "Oh yeah, perfect." So I'm like, "How much are they?" With tax, title, license, walk out the door, $350. I'm like, "Yo, I got $350." Right here. Yeah. So man, I cop them. You right? And I go back to the house, and I'm feeling like, damn, man, that was for my AC, but man, these are fresh, you know what I mean?
I'm be fly.
Yeah, I'm be sweaty, but you know what I mean? So I get to the house, and then my sister say, hey, you ready to go? I'm like, nah, I'm gonna chill. Right? But you know, I love fashion like that. You know what I mean? So, you know, I started. What else would I do?
Talking about fashion, man. Let's talk about your creative process. How do you decide what do you put on your shirts, or just your clothes in general?
So a lot of stuff was hit and miss, right? I had ideas about, you know, what could I put on there because I always want to do a message. Like I got a shirt that has champions on it, and then you know, like the ring and stuff like that. And I want people to wear it, and I want people to feel like a champion when they wear it. Like when you look in the mirror, like you know how you address yourself, whatever. And remember, you're a champion. I have a shirt that says hereditary, and I went to Las Vegas one time to go by Mayweather's boxing gym. I wanted to check that out because I'm a Mayweather fan. And I had went and I seen his dad, right, Mayweather Senior. And I said, hey, excuse me, can I ask you something? He's like, yeah. I said, man, you mind if I give you a gift? He goes, you got a gift for me? I said, yeah. He goes, man, you got a gift for Junior. I said, no, sir, I got a gift for you. Yeah. He goes, for me? Okay. He goes, why me? I said, look, I'm going to tell you, this is my clothing brand. It's called, this one right here says hereditary on it. And I want to give it to you. He goes, what'd that mean? I said, well, look, man, me and you got the same past. Because, you know, Senior went to jail and stuff like that. And I said, me and you got the same past. And you change your ways and you train, your son. I said, long story short, if it wasn't for you, there'd be no junior. And if there wasn't no junior, this place wouldn't be here. And if this place wasn't here, I said, you see everybody hitting the bag, all these kids, they wouldn't have nowhere to go but to the street, just like we did. I said, sir, this gift's for you. And he's like, man, he goes, you mind? He goes, man, you mind if I put it on? I said, man, I'd be offended if you didn't. You know what I mean? So he took it off. I got the pictures and everything. Like, he took it off and he put it on. We did that number and stuff like that.
That's a blessing.
Yeah, and that's my process. Like, what do God, what do you want to tell these people? Tell them they're champions. And I got to tell them, I'm like, man, I want to be like you, man. And he goes, and what's that? I said, I want to learn how to raise champions. Like, I want to learn how to raise these kids to become champions. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was love when I was growing up and the older cats was putting drugs in my hands. Now, the squares can't understand that because they're like, man, they don't love you. They're putting drugs in your hand. I get it. But that's because we didn't know how to love. I ain't saying Jack didn't love me. He put drugs in my hand because he knew he couldn't feed me. Yeah. But you could feed yourself with this. And it was love. We just didn't know how to love. So when I see kids without a father or without a father figure, man, here I am. You know what I'm saying? That's why I need to learn how to raise champions. That's why I had to honor that man because he has the gift to raise a champion. Yeah. So I honored them with the gift so that anointing could come on me and I can raise these kids right. You know what I'm saying? Not just my own.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
You mentioned the whole shirt thing. That actually goes into my next question. If you could have your clothing on any celebrity or famous person in this world, who would it be?
I would have to say, dead or alive, or alive today.
Dead or alive.
Dead or alive, Dr. Miles Monroe. Dr. Miles Monroe, and I don't know if you know Dr. Miles Monroe, but he was my mentor's mentor. You know what I'm saying? And me and him got, before he passed away, him and his wife. Man, he would speak strong, and he changed my life through YouTube. And I used to hear a lot of his teachings on purpose of man, purpose of woman, purpose of relationship, purpose of this, purpose of that. And we were talking a little bit of.
Does he have the purpose-driven life? Is that his too?
I don't think so. Mm-hmm. But this is what he said, and I'll never forget. I'll never forget a lot of stuff he said. But he says, what you will misuse, abuse is inevitable. Like if you misuse anything, you're gonna break it. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know how to use something, you're gonna break it. If you don't know how to use your wife, you're gonna break that marriage. If you don't know how to use your sons, you're gonna break that relationship. If you got to learn how to use, you know what I'm saying, what you're given. And man, I could go on and on about him, but I had the privilege of meeting him, and I got to tell him, and we had a relationship. And man, I would have loved to see him. If I would have just followed what I was gonna do in the beginning, man, he would have had it. But I would love to have seen him and like, man, look what I got going on. You know what I mean?
Knowing that proud moment.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Man, let's talk about your personal style, man. What is your personal style, and how has it evolved over the years?
Okay, so back then is whatever I could afford, of course, right? I usually, like when I got out of jail, people were like, well, my wife, she was like, man, you still doing Jordan? You like, you still t-shirt, you still, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. But I evolved when, like, I never used to wear suits so much, but then we had a conference that my pastor had, and he was like, hey, look, man, we're gonna have to dress up a little bit for the conference, man. You have a suit? And I said, nah, but I could go get one. I'll go get one. So me being already like, I feel like I got some fashion sense. So I put the suit together, and everybody was like, man, hey, you look, hey, wow. You know what I'm saying? And it's the accessories that I add on to the suit. Yo. So there was, we had a conference one time, and this one guy, he comes up to me, he goes, man, where you from? I said, oh, I'm from here, from Houston. He goes, from Houston, Texas? And I said, yeah. He goes, okay. I said, I'm from California. He introduced himself. All right. He goes, you got a clothing brand? And I said, nah. He goes, you need to start one. And I said, all right, cool. And then, like, I'm a big dude, so I would have to make some of my clothes, like, for me. Mm-hmm. And I would notice people were like, hey man, that's a flash, man, where'd you get that shit from? And I'm like, oh, I made it. They're like, you made it? Hey, you make me one. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I bet. You know what I'm saying? And I just kept thinking. Well, see, when I got out of jail, I started a clothing brand, right? And the first shirt was "Don't be a prayer hater," right?
I like that.
So it was like that, and then it had like the Mickey Mouse hands praying. So I did a 24 of them or something like that, and a friend of mine helped me out, and he would do, you know, at the garage, him and his mom's, and you know, so I sold the 24 shirts or whatever. Everybody was copping just off the love, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, he's trying to do, all right, well, let me get a shirt, you know what I mean? And then I get a picture, and they're like, hey, bro, look what happened to my shirt. And I look, and it looked like snow from the TV. You know, I'm like, oh, it came off, like the artwork.
Yeah.
So I said, man. So I started hitting people up. Hey, man, this happened to you. Yeah, but don't worry about it. And I'm like, nah, I want to start a brand. So, you know, I felt like I was double hustling. I called them, and they were like, what? Bring it back. Man, we're going to replace everything, shirts, everything. So they made it real good. You know what I mean? Good people. And, but I felt like I was double hustling. So I gave it up, right? I said, man, I'm going to stop, whatever. So I just started making my own gear, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I had ideas, I had this, I had that. And what's so funny is, like, I would tell, like, my son and you know, my wife and stuff, like, man, I wish I want to do this, I want to do that. And maybe 2 years later, they would have that on racks in the stores. And everybody was like, wow, how do you, like, I'm like, man, I just, what I like, you know what I'm saying? So, so I said, you know what, I'm going to start a clothing. I'm going to start it up again. So I bought a hoodie because it was like January, going to be January. And so I bought a hoodie, a black hoodie, and with electrical tape, I put red ink, something like that, black on black. So I put it on, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm like, all right, man, just a vision to see. I had to see it. So I'm like, all right, red ink, I'm looking. Then I thought to myself, man, who do I think I am? Start a clothing brand? Me? Come on, man. And I took it off, and I threw it in the closet. The arm started dangling and everything. So I was Friday night. Sunday, you know, I'm at the church house and I'm listening to my pastor, and he starts like this, and he never starts like this. I need to get that footage. But he gets on the microphone, the music goes down, and he goes, y'all, you know that and this man didn't know what was going on. Yeah. And I said, how does he know it's in the closet? How does he know? You know what I mean?
He's talking to me.
Yo, if I would have, I'm good for the day. You already did your purpose. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm gone. So I said, man, full throttle. And then I got my brother-in-law. Yeah,
it's a blessing. That's a blessing. You said you've always been in the art. So at what age did you really just start drawing, or just, you know, be like, you know what, even though I'm in these streets, or, you know, I still have in the back of my head, like, I want to be an artist or do something clothing wise?
So we used to go to like field trips when we were kids, right? Like back in the day, it was like $3, $5 for a field trip, and they'll take you to the museum. Or they'll take you to, like, I remember we went to see plays like Charlotte's Web and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. The King and I, right? But man, I used to love it. I think I used to love it more than the other kids. You know, the other kids probably like, oh, we don't get to go to school today. But man, I used to pay attention. I used to see them act. I used to see them this. And then we went to the art museum. I was like, wow, look at this stuff, man. This looks real. It just really impressed me. Now, me, I can't draw. I can't paint. Like when I was in the penitentiary, I bought a thing full of envelopes, and I was trying to draw. Man, it was corny. Like, I could not draw. I used to play football, and like I quit football, and so they started putting me in these like elective classes, which is like art, theater arts, and stuff like that. So I'm in theater arts, and I used to love the way the teacher would do something and be like, okay, now y'all do it. You know what I'm saying? They had the fruit, the apple, the orange, the bowl, right? Yeah. And I told, you know, the people around me, look, man, I'm gonna put this in my ear, listen to Screw. And then I said, I'm gonna put this in my ear, like my earbuds. And I said, man, I'm really gonna try. Like, I'm really gonna try to do this, right? I always love art, but I want to see if I got something. So I'm there the whole 45 minutes, right? I'm doing this, and then now she's picking up. So I put my stuff down. She's picking it up. I want to see what she says, and then she comes by. She goes, "Hey," she goes, "Who did this?" I said, "I did it." And then she goes, "Andrew, man, can you even try?" And I said, "Oh, like I did it the whole 45 minutes." I was like, "Yeah, man," and everybody was chuckling. They know I was really trying. I'm like, "What?" I said, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Man, like chicken scratch." I'm like, "Nah." So, yo, I cannot draw, I cannot paint, but man, I tell you what, I appreciate the talent. You know what I mean? So being that, and I got pictures of me like back in the day, like going to art museums, and my brother too. He was like, "Man, what you want to go do?" I said, like, cause I would go to New York twice a year. And he was like, "Man, what do you want to go do?" I'm like, "I want to hit the art museum." He's like, "For real? Where do you want to go?" Yeah, I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "All right, let's go." Yeah. And he would take me, and I would go, and most, clowny art museum. You go to Brooklyn, you know what I mean? But and then so he tell me too. He was like, so we went to Washington. He took me to an art, museum in Washington. And then he's like, "Man, what else you want to do?" I said, "I don't know, man." I said, "I heard Brown White got some shows." He had some bread. And I said, "I don't know. I want to see the Phantom of the Opera." And he goes, "Man, you want to see that?" And I said, "Yeah, man, I think it'd be cool." So he took me. I went to go see the Phantom of the Opera, Cats. I went, you know what I'm saying? I always loved the art, the theater art, the arts. And it just brought that love back to it when I was in, in these elective classes. Like in high school, I was in theater arts. I mean, I wasn't doing no plays or anything like that. But the teacher would just, Mr. Young, shout out Mr. Young. He would just start. Like, man, he'd be like, taking his notes and call roll or whatever. Then he'll get up and be like, he'll start like, yeah, da 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 da. I'm like, "Oh shoot, he's doing it!" And then I'm in school, so I cheat before I go to class. Yeah. And I'm like, "Yo, he's doing it because it's like acting." But man, I just always loved the arts. I always loved the drawing. I always loved graffiti because that was part of hip hop too. You know what I'm saying? So I go to a lot of these hip hop art shows, and you always catch me there. There's an art show, and I'm gonna be there. Go to support. And I got a few pieces from some artists from here in Houston, mad talents. So goal is to go to Miami for like the art basel and stuff like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but man, I see art like that. I'll see it like 15th century. I'll see a graffiti. I'll see this kid bombed on a train, and I appreciate it all. You know what I'm saying? The creativity.
Facts. Man, I've been watching you, man. I noticed you've been getting connected with some big names in Houston. How does it feel? With your background, you being so open about your background, how does it feel, knowing they rock with you?
Amazing. Like, these people that, like you talking about, like PSKs and the Bum B's and stuff like that, like, man, I would hear them. And that's poetry to me. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people think Shakespeare is just poetry. Nah, man, these Big Word Boys was kicking poetry. Facts. Tupac was kicking poetry. Biggie was kicking poetry. You know what I'm saying? And they all talked about, tragedy. They all talked about, the lavishness that life could bring. They all talked about what's on the other side of the spectrum. You know what I'm saying? This is art too. You know what I'm saying? And I respect, like I told you, like they're poets to me. You know what I'm saying? So that's just like me meeting Bun B is just like me meeting Shakespeare. You know what I mean? And a theologian can say, "Oh, that's not the same, man. You're crazy. They are the same to me." Nipsey Hussle, like, man, he's a poet. You know what I mean? And they're artists, and I love it. So to see them even like, talk to me back and really hear it and be like, "Man, that's cool. I like what you're doing." Like, word, like you're the Shakespeare to me. You know what I'm saying? You like what I'm doing. Yeah. So it's flattering. You know what I'm saying? Like on another level. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man, what advice would you give to any entrepreneur? The younger generation. What advice would you give to them trying to pursue their goals and dreams?
Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. Find out who you are. Find out who you are before you try to share it with the world. Because for many years, man, I didn't know who I was. That's why I always failed. Like, I didn't have nobody to tell me who I was. Like I said, I had many men in my life trying to tell me. When I was at boot camp, there was this guy named drill instructor Hartley. And when I went to boot camp, I was like, "Man, I ain't finna do all that push-up, man. I ain't finna do." So I was like an asshole. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to do no push-ups. I ain't trying to live. 3 months into the program, It's a 3-month program. I did 6 months because I didn't want to follow the rules. And then one day when I was seeing my platoon going home, when I was supposed to go home, I'm like, man, you know what? I'm gonna try it now. No. And drill instructor Hartley, he wouldn't just say do push-ups. He'd get on there and be like, come on, and he'd do it with us. No. So he woke something up in me. And I ended up being like, they called it a hard charge. I ended up being like a leader, like a line leader and stuff like that. And he would always brag, remember him? He didn't want to do the program. Look at him now. You can't break him. And other people, like, oh, I remember that punk. He told me, F me the other day. You know what I mean? He goes, you sure? I'm going to go thrash him, which means I'm going to make him do some exercise. So he's like, go ahead. He won't stop. He got heart. And then, like, I'm doing it, whatever. Anyway, last day, and I'm graduating. I'm going home. Mom's on the side. So he comes to me and goes, Rodriguez. And I said, yeah, you got to request permission to speak. He goes, speak. Tell me. He goes, I'm going to ask you something. I'm like, yeah. He goes, what are you going to do when you get out? And I thought about it. And I said, man, I don't know. And he says, God dang. He goes, God dang. He kicks the thing, right? And he goes, you still don't see who you are, do you? And I said, man, I guess not. Right? And I left. I went back to the dope game, went back to this and that, right? And then years later, going to the church house, I'm out. I'm still on parole. I start working at this apartments. I'm cleaning up. And then the manager, I was like 2 years. So the manager calls me in and she goes, hey, you're going to have to find another job. I'm like, man, you firing me? She goes, no, but you're getting stuck. She goes, there's more for you out there. So I'm going to give you a week with pay. But you got to find another job. She goes, you're getting too used to this. She goes, you don't see who you are? And I said, man, I guess not.
Signs everywhere.
You know what I mean? So I go and I become a porter at a dealership, a car dealership, right? And there's a brother Frank. I tell the story all the time. So he got nice money. You know what I'm saying? The man knows how to make money. And he goes, Andrew, man, tell me, what's your profession? What do you do? I said, oh, I'm a porter over here. And I'm proud, right? I'm a porter over here. What you call it? And he goes, oh, that's cool. He goes, you don't sell cars? And I said, no. He goes, you need to start selling cars. And he would tell me that Wednesday, Sunday. To the point where, like, oh, I'm dodging this dude, man. I don't want to sell cars, right? So he goes, and he would always tell me, you ain't salesman of the month yet? You ain't salesman of the month yet? I'm like, man, I ain't selling cars. Like, oh, man, kind of leave me alone about it, right? So he has a stroke. And he's conformed to, like a bed. Yeah. But his wheelchair, like, lays back and picks up, and he can't really move. So, we're praying for him and stuff like that. He had a stroke. He comes back to the church house again, and he's in his wheelchair, and he can't talk. And I'm not trying to make fun or nothing, but he kind of, like, musters up strength when he sees me. He's like, and I'm like, oh, you relax, chill. He goes, I'm going to tell you something. I'm like, yeah. He goes, are you salesman of the month yet? I said, Brother Frank. I said, golly, even in your time, why are you worrying about? I said, just because you said so, I'm going to march in there tomorrow, and I'm going to tell him I want to be a car salesman. Yeah. Right? Because I've been there 2 years. So the next day I go in there, I'm like, hey, Chad, can I talk to you? He's like, yeah, what's going on? What's up? I said, man, I want to see about selling cars. He goes, man, it's about time. And everybody seen everybody seen. So, boom, salesman of the month. I said, come on, man, this can't be this. So I take a little bread, right? And I honored Brother Frank. I said, brother, now I'm walking with him. You know what I'm saying? I'm striding now, right? So I said, Brother Frank, come here. I said, come over here. Like, he wheels to me, like, what's going on? I said, here, put this in your hand. I said, this is for you. I said, it's a gift of honor. I said, because you looking at the salesman of the month. He's like, oh, next month. I said, Brother Frank, hey, come over here. I need to tell you something. He's like, what's going on? I said, I doubled that in your hand. I said, it's a gift of honor. I said, you looking at the salesman of the month again? He's like, man, again? I said, again. The next month. I said, come here, Brother Frank. Get put something in your hand. He goes, what's going on, man? Tell me what's going on. I said, man, I'm Jordan, 3P, 23, right? Salesman of the month. Man, I never seen who I was. So through the clothing brand, I want to show people who you are. Yeah. Because a lot of these kids, and grown men, I didn't know who I was. And when people would be like, man, you work more. You don't know who you are, huh? Man, you really don't know who you are, right? Man, you really don't know what you can do, huh? Man, everybody sees it. Why don't you see it? But that's why the Bible says repent. It means change your mind, change your thinking. Like change the way you think.
Yeah.
Like you don't think you worth it, then you worth it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what this means. That's why I say, you know, what does Red Ink stand for in one word? Hope. You know what I'm saying? This means hope. I do it for all the underdogs. I do it for all the people that say they couldn't do it. I do it for all the outcasts. I do it for all the weirdos. I do it for everybody that they say they didn't belong. Because I was that person that didn't belong. And look what we doing. Right. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So that's my message to everybody. If you want me to tell them a message, that's my message. And don't give up. Find out who you are. Find out who you are. Get you a mentor. Let them know who you are. And if you're not the person you want to be, then be that person. Just start being that person. And then once you're that person and figure out who you are, then share it with the world. You know what I'm saying? So
you know, hell yeah, man. That's what's up, brother.
Appreciate it.
Man, on that note, man, we're gonna go ahead and end this interview, man. I appreciate everybody watching. Everybody gonna be watching this feature, man. Episode 48, kicking it with my guy, CEO, CFO, owner, man, of Red Ink, my guy Andrew Rodriguez. Appreciate it, man. Amazing interview, brother, for real. We live, we out of here. Y'all go check it out.